Hello YouTube, my name is Ryan Thomas and I am your host for the DM Genesis program. This is episode 2, Communication and Scheduling. Now, communication is a subject which is important in all aspects of our lives, but I am not trying to make this into a self-help channel, unlike some people's opinions. So, I'm just going to say that and move on with it. Now, in this episode we will be discussing how to effectively communicate with your players, most importantly, why you are effectively communicating with your players, and what to effectively communicate with your players. And once that is all understood, we're then going to move on to scheduling, which I have been asked to bring up and mention. So I'm going to do that. Now, I'll start with communication, as I said. Communication, as I said before, is important, and I feel like it should be separate when you're communicating as a DM and communicating as a personal friend. Those two things should be separate. I'm going to start from square one, just to calm myself down a bit, and say I would very highly recommend making a separate email address just for DMing purposes. Now, I have a few reasons for doing this. The most important one is that it leaves a bit of a paper trail, so to speak. Although it is still technically a digital copy and is not paper, I don't want to hear anything from you on that, and I know who you are. So, it leaves a bit of a paper trail, something we can track, we as DMs. For example, I like to change certain rules around when I feel like they do not work the way they're intended to, or if because something else in my world has been slightly changed, a certain other rule needs to change a little bit to make it work still, I will change it. And I do this when I can via email, not in person, because that causes a bit of confusion occasionally, because I apologize. The next session, someone might have been like, I forgot, I didn't know you changed this rule, yeah, well, I like to send out emails. I will immediately send out an email to the entire group as a whole with my DM address and say this rule's being changed for these reasons, this is how it used to work, this is how it is going to work. And then once I do that, I print it out. I'm pointing at my printer, you can't see that. But I print out the email, I make sure included is the list of people it was sent to, and I have it. That way, when it comes up in the next session, Bob says, well, I didn't know you changed that rule. Well, I have an email right here with your name on the sent to, and it makes it pretty clear that it was changed, so we're going to have to go with it this way. And Bob can't do anything about it. I'm not saying that your players are going to try and sneak anything by you, I'm sure they won't, but this just makes it so much easier when they are all when everyone is in agreement that this is how this is going to work, this is what is. End of story. And as a DMs, I'm just going to stop and mention this because I'm sounding a bit harsh. As DMs, we are always our players' friends. That's our jobs. But we are also, to a smaller extent, their managers in a certain way. We have to schedule them. We have to make sure they're staying in line. We have to make sure they're interacting with each other okay. And I'm not saying we're their bosses, because we're not, but we have to keep them from going at each other's throats, because you know they will, and everyone likes to do this. Throat. It's a fun noise. So, now, another reason is that I like to be able to say, if you get an email from my personal email address, it is a personal matter, it is not related to D&D, and you can feel free to ignore it if you want to not talk to me on a personal basis that day. If you get an email from my DM account, however, this is an email that is referring specifically to the Pathfinder, or the tabletop role-playing game that we are currently playing. It has nothing to do with me personally, and I want you to pay attention to it unless you feel like specifically ignoring tabletop role-playing game stuff today. So, if Bob is a little upset that I changed the rule on him as a person for some reason, he can feel free not to respond to my personal email that day, but I really want him to respond to that DM address. More importantly, they know that it's separate, and you will never bring up personal issues in the DM address, and you will never bring up game issues in the personal address. They're separate things so that your players can feel safe responding to whichever one they wish to respond to. And you might say, well, there's no need for that level of I can't call it anonymity, but it's the only thing that's popping into my mind, because I'm very comfortable with my players. Well, yes, I'm sure you are, and that's perfectly fine. This just adds a layer of officiality to it. Something that makes you the DM. You are not just, oh, Jim is being our DM today. This is our DM. We have to respect that. And I run the risk of sounding a tyrant here. I'm really not. I try to approach this in the most friendly way possible, but this is one of those things where you are an administrator, you have to administrate. So, I'm a little off track. Okay. So, they can feel free not to respond to that. And most importantly, email gives a sense of privacy, I should say. It allows your players to talk to you as a DM individually, one-on-one. And sure, they can do this at any time. They can say, hey, Ryan, I need to talk to you. And that's fine, I'll be fine with that. But then at the same time, they're telling all the other players at the table, hey, I'm talking to the DM. And the other players may not care, maybe they will, it doesn't matter. All I'm saying is that this gives them a new avenue that if they choose to take it, they can approach it in a more private manner for whatever reason they feel is necessary. They can drop me an email and say, hey, can we talk about this? And I'm free, me personally, I will happily talk to them via email, via phone. I will set up a meeting time to talk to them personally. But the moment they send me an email to my DM address, that is me as a DM talking to them. That is not Ryan. That is not happy bouncy Ryan. That is just DM Ryan. Sure, still happy, still bouncy, but they're different, and it's hard to explain my thought there. I just hope it's getting across properly. So that is pretty much a sum up of the communication subject I wanted to breach. I'm just trying to stress, when communicating with your players, you need to be official about it. You need to express yourself clearly and thoughtfully. That's another reason I like email. I'm going to throw this out at the last second. You have the ability to write up your responses and to think and pause and go, is this really what I want to say, or is this really communicating what I'm trying to communicate? Because that's the benefit you get from reading the text. And yes, some people are like, yeah, but it's not as personal as talking in person. Of course it's not. It's writing. It's different. But that's important for official things because we are prone to say things we didn't actually mean to say, or there's a great example. What I actually meant to say was, we are prone to screw up. Like, I might say something totally wrong because I wasn't paying attention to my words for a split second, and then that's stuck in everyone's head because that's what they heard. And then I have to go beat it out of them in person. No, you're not allowed to think of that. No thoughts. Anyway. So, that is why I use email. That is why I very highly recommend setting up a separate email account just for that. Now, I'm going to respond to a request I was given. Are you given requests? Yes, you're given requests. I was given a request by my friend Nick, and he asked me basically, how do I set up this first meeting and what do I do? And it's a perfectly valid question. So I'm going to say your first meeting is going to rely heavily on scheduling. And your first meeting is also largely dependent on what you want to do with your first meeting. Me personally, I'm going to throw this out real quick, I like to use the first meeting to build characters. Just build characters. Not worry about playing. I want everyone to have their characters set. I want them to come to the table where I am able to help them build their characters as they want to. I am willing to help them set up their character backgrounds because, as I said in the past, I require a one-page character background from everyone in the group by the first playing session. And this is kind of like my help session where I'm just like, okay, I like making characters. I'm willing to help anyone with any questions they have, whether you want to know how to optimize your character or what storyline you want to use with your character. I'm willing to do anything. This is why I'm here. And another benefit I feel of this is that I personally only want character stat rolls to be made in front of me. I trust my players, I really do. I don't even really pay attention when they're making the rolls. I just want that sense of security there. I just want them to be aware that I am not being lazy or lax about this. I am watching them, I am making sure everything's going set, I am going to take care of everything. Relax, I've got your backs, it's all good. So, that all said, that's my typical first meeting. That's what I would suggest you do as well as a new DM, because that'll help you know how characters are built and see what your players are going to do before you actually start really getting in depth about the designing. So let's assume that you followed the previous things I've said. You've made your group, I know you have. You've determined what you're doing with your group, and now you have your separate DM address for email, and most importantly, you have all of your group's contact info in your DM address email, and you can contact them rather easily. I'm going to assume this is all true, and now we're going to schedule the first meeting. It's actually a fairly simple process. What you're going to do is just open up the email, send an email out to everyone in the group, and you're going to ask them what times do not work for them. The reason I'm saying this is because there's no point to asking what times do work, because they're going to end up giving you the times that don't work anyway. Because typically people focus on, I don't know if it's more of focusing on the negative thing, or it's more of people have more spare time than they think they do, so they really only bother to mention the time that isn't spare time. Either way, you ask what times are not available. Then you wait for everyone's responses. This is an important thing with the communication. You have to stress you need to respond to these within a certain amount of time. When they are scheduling emails, we need to get these back quickly, because we need to be able to schedule for an entire group of people, and that can be a rather difficult process. But let's assume this is all done, and you are now scheduling for the group. Once you have all of their information, you've gotten all of it, everything is good, you are then going to take it and simply look at it. I mean, you just say, alright, so person A can't do Wednesday from 8 to 9. Person B can't do Tuesday from 6 to 7. Person C can't do Tuesday from 6 to 7, blah, 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 until you find that, it looks like everyone is available Thursday at 6 p.m. until God knows when. I think I just made a really weird face. So, basically that is how you schedule. It's fairly simple, but it can get really convoluted, because if you have a large group, things get messy, and people end up changing their times at the last second. An important thing you need to realize is that sometimes not everyone will be able to come, and that's unavoidable. But I will address how to deal with an absent player in a separate video. Let's just assume that you can get the entire group together for at least this first meeting. And that's an important thing to stress if you choose to go ahead with my suggestion. This is not a playing meeting. This is just build the character meeting so that we can all get familiar with this process. So, that sums up my video today. My name is Ryan Thomas, and I am the host of the DM Genesis program. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, please leave a thumbs up. If you do not like this program, please leave a thumbs up, and then press the back button as quickly as you can before you realize that you pressed the thumbs up instead of the thumbs down. Don't press the thumbs down. That's a bad button. It'll blow your computer up. Okay? Okay. Leave a comment. Leave a message telling me how much you love me, because undoubtedly I love you too, and I will feel free to say so. Leave me a subscription. I love subscriptions. Leave me a video response. I love video responses, and I will likely respond to those video responses with another video response. Then we'll get in a video response kind of thing going on. It gets a lot of fun, I think. It looks like a lot of fun. Either way, do one of those things. It'll be great. I promise it'll all work out. So, as I said, my name is Ryan Thomas. This has been the DM Genesis program. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.